Welcome back, everybody, to Unconditional Surrender, me, myself, and I playthrough of the main event scenario. Game is published by GMT Games, designed by Salvatore Vasta. We're getting ready to go into the February 1944 turn. The British and Americans had a very successful offensive in northern Italy in January, which is going to cause the Germans some problems. So, let us begin with the weather phase. It is February, so we still are rolling dice. No special rules here. And in the cold zone, it is a 6, so it stays severe. In the mild zone, it is a 5, so it moves up to severe from poor. And then in the warm zone, we have a 3, so it moved from fair to poor. So the weather worsened here in February. No one's going to declare war on anything right now. In the economy phase, I pretty much have preset everything. And if you take a look, the Germans are still at 36. British are at 34. Russians, having gained back their lost factory, are now up to 40 production points. So, onwards. Strategic warfare phase. The Germans still have their plane up here in Stavanger. It's under the strategic move market. Actually. Yes, it is. So, they get +1 for that. And the Russians have +2 because there's 6 conquered countries. So you divide by 3 and round up. So, we go to the faction track. The Germans have 2 submarines. The Russians don't have anything to play. The Germans want to make sure they get back this one because there are a ridiculous number of bombed markers in Germany. There's like 4. So they're probably not going to be able to, even if they have the British die roll, they're not going to be able to stop from losing a factory. So my thought is, I'm going to regain it from the Russians, hopefully, and then I'll lose it back to the British, but I'll still be sitting at 36 next turn, which is, about as good as can be expected. The best I can get it just be like 38 right now. So just trying to keep myself as high a production as possible. So the Germans are going to play submarines against the Russians. And the Russians can't play anything. So the Russian die roll is halved, the Germans is not. The Germans roll. 2 + 1 is a 3. Not good. The Russians roll a 3 + 2 is a 5, which is halved to 2.5, rounds up to a 3. 3 to a 3 is a diamond. So the Germans do recover their lost factory for the moment. And then the Germans have to roll to see how long it's going to take for their submarines to come back from their excursion. Move this over a little bit. Ooh, they rolled a 1. So they're going to get them back next turn, along with their heavy artillery. Well, that's nice to know. Then we go over to the West. The Germans are still at +1. The West starts off at +2 because U.S. is in the war, and then they have 4 bombed markers. So 2, 3, 4. West is at +6. The Germans are at +1. The minimum, if the West were to roll the maximum, they would end up with a 12, halved down to a 6, which means the Germans would have to roll 4, 5, or 6 to maintain. Like I said, I know I'm getting another one back next turn. It seems kind of a waste to use the submarine here when I can possibly maintain myself at this 36 for another 2 months, knowing I'm getting another submarine next turn. So I'll have 2 again next turn. So I think I'm just going to let this pass. The British do have an ultra marker, but they are +6. So even if they were halved, like I said, they would have a really good die roll. And the Germans are at 1, and there may come here. What's the weather? It's severe and poor, so they could use that ultra marker to guarantee the Germans lose 1. But, Will the Germans waste their submarines marker on an attack when I'm at +6? Probably not. So they're going to take a gamble. Maybe their airplanes won't get through as easy this time around or something, so they're going to take a gamble and not press the Ultra. So, and when we go to combat commitment, nobody commits. The Germans roll 5 + 1 is a 6, and the British roll a 6 + 6 is a 12. So, the submarine would have kept me at the 0, but at this point, I think Germany's very content to be trolling along at 36 production points in early 1944. And then, before I forget, which I tend to do, I'm going to remember this time, let's get these bombed markers off of here and into someplace safe like the turn track so that we can make the British fly airplanes. Okay, so that's strategic warfare. Strategic movement axis, first thing you got to do is get that strategic move marker off of there. And then we have to decide if there's a good strategic move for them somewhere. It is severe, so I don't have to worry about invasions in here. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to move this second garrison here. Because I really don't care if I lose garrisons. He's going to rail down into Marseille because it's poor in the Med. And what that'll let me do is in the movement phase, I'll be able to take the 8th German Army and move it north towards like Paris, just kind of form some sort of a reserve here in central France. Ultimately, he'll probably end up in Rotterdam as the armor retreats and the infantries peel off. The 2nd Infantry will end up ultimately moving up northward into France too as soon as the weather breaks. Right now they're in severe, so there's not a lot of major attacks going to happen because airplanes don't count in the mild and cold zones. There's no airplanes, no armor bonuses, none of that stuff. So it's not going to be pretty, quite honestly. And everything's going to be halved. So that's the Axis strategic movement. The West, do I have any shenanigans? I don't think I have any shenanigans. Sometimes I take a short strategic movement to move something from some place and put it in a port with convoys for the future, but right now I don't have any shenanigans like that I need to do, so I'm not going to bother. And the Soviets, I don't think everything's like right up on the front. So there's no little, twerky little strategic redeployment that might help me garrison something and let somebody run away. Pretty much I'm where I need to be. So, nothing there. Go into Axis operations phase. It's severe over here. So I have it'd be 2 + 1, it'd be 3 - 1. It'd be +2 to +1. Just to try and reestablish the line. Okay, pretty much the German line is where it is. It's in a pretty good place, especially against severe type attacks. They're not very. It takes some serious die roll disparity to make any real headway here. One thing I am going to do, since they're only +2, I'm going to activate the 2nd Panzer. National tracks, put them over here. I'm going to activate the 2nd Panzer, and he's going to move back a space out of Smolensk, and then 1-2 into 2347. And then he's going to declare an assault on the 1st Guards. And then I'll activate the 6th to do the same. Assault the 1st Guards. And this is just an effort to, if I can win that hex, I can put the infantry back there and I'd be fine. Then I'm going to move the 9th Infantry of the Germans before I resolve my assault. It's going to go 1, 2, 3 into Smolensk. And there we go. So that should have been 1, 2, 3, 4. Started at 36, I should be at 32. Oh, one thing. I noted it in the other videos. I will say it here out loud. I miscounted for the Germans. I moved the British. I couldn't figure out why the British were at 33 last time. It's because I moved the British marker instead of a German marker. Germans should have only had 23, so they wouldn't have been able to flip up all their infantry. So the one infantry that was least likely to be invaded was the one in Amsterdam. So I left him. I flipped him back over to being reduced to make the production point count correct. I flipped over all the guys here in northern Italy, but then I flipped one too many. I didn't have that many production points, and definitely wanted to flip over all my airplanes. So that's been corrected, just so you know why something might not look the way you thought it looked from the end of the last set of videos. All right, so here we are, +2 because we're German. Well, I mean the armor primary. And I get +1 for a buddy. And then I'm -1 for the woods. And the Russians are +1 because they're an elite. So it's a +2 to a +1, and we have our die rolls. Odds are against me pulling this off, okay? But it would be nice to just straighten up that line again. So the Germans roll. A 3 +2 is a 5. Halved to a 2.5 rounds up to a 3. There's a small chance I could pull this off if he rolls a 1. And the Russians roll a 6 +1 is a 7. Halved to 3.5 rounds up to a 4. So nothing happens. This attack failed, as I expected it to. Do I have any German reserves to move? I better zoom out here to see if I can see German reserves. Don't think I have a whole lot of German reserves to move around. I really like the line I'm on. You can force a couple of retreats. Pretty soon we're going to get into March and April where it's going to probably be poor instead of severe. It comes back to like 50-50. And one of those turns will definitely be poor. So that's probably when the German line will... Well, you know, I could try to do that there. That's an interesting thought. I could try to do that. That might be interesting. Well, why don't we try that? We're going to try something else here. I just saw this. I'm going to activate the 20th, and I'm going to activate the 1st. So that's 2 more points. Don't move the British, move the Germans. Almost moved the British again. I'm just drawn to spending stuff for the British. I'm so pumped after that last offensive in northern Italy where I broke the Po River and pushed them all back up to the Alps. That I'm ready to spend more British points, but this is basically going to be a +3 to a +1. The Germans start off at +2, will make the 1st the primary, and then they get +1 for a buddy, and the guards, infantry, the 10th guard, is +1 because he's a guards unit. He's elite. So I'm +3 to +1, and we have our die rolls. If I can get a retreat here, I could possibly get the 1st infantry into a position where he would not be surrounded like he is and be able to actually move away next turn and save him. So we're going to try this. So the Germans roll. A 5 +3 is an 8. Halved is a 4. And the Russians roll. A 3 +1 is a 4, which is halved to a 2. And a 4 to a 2 on the combat results table is a DR. So I actually pulled this off. I will push the 10th guards back. It's the only place he can legally retreat to. And I'm actually going to take this with the 29th. Because that now lets me evacuate out through 2747, 2746. And the supply line is still maintained because I can go 2747 to 2746, and then I'm on a rail line and I can rail out through Kiev. So currently I have a chance here if he doesn't push me back, which he's going to attack with 1, 2, +3 to +2, so he's going to be coming back at me with about the same kind of thing. If he doesn't retreat the 20, if he doesn't retreat the 20th, then the first will be able to extract itself next turn, and I'll be 1 will point ahead of the demise of Germany, and be able to reset my line depending on what the weather is. So that is the East. Is there anything to do? Italy is just the way Italy is. He does not have really good attacks. It's severe weather. Let him. If he retreats me, okay. I'm going to end up running back to the Alps anyway here. The only thing I do need to do is I need to get this guy out of here because he can't be supplied. So that's 1 for the river and 2 for the hex. Oh no, that's a rail line. So that's 1 to the hex northeast of Trieste. And then probably 2, 3, 4. And then 5, 6. I'm not sure if I should go east or straight north. I think I'll go straight north, so another 3. So that's 4, and this would be 7 into 20, yeah, what is that, 32, 25. Trieste is theirs for the invading if they want it. Go right ahead. But we're going to sit on this rough terrain. We're in severe weather. It'll be -1 to attack. I think the best he can get is like a +2 on any of them, or +1 actually, because he can't use airplanes. So he'd be 1 for British and 1 for a buddy, because he has no 3x attacks. So there is that. He'll probably run over and grab himself a city or something like that. Is what I see him doing. Yeah, that's probably what he'll do. So, that's that one. How about up in the west? Oh, that was a production point. I should be down to 29 now. I'm going to do a real quick recount. There's 1 here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, I started at 36, so I'm at 29, so I'm in the right place. What am I going to do? 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 Should I bother? I could be +3 to, because 2 for German, 1 for a buddy, to +1. We'll try it, see if we can push the Canadian back. We're kind of open here in the central France, but there's not a lot I can do about it at this point. Slowly but surely, they're trying to break out of here, so I'm going to spend 4 more. It's going to leave me with 25. We'll make the, whatever panzer this is in the north, 3rd Panzer. Zoom in here. 3rd Panzer is the primary, so he's +2 for being German, and then +1 for a buddy because it's severe. We don't get extra bonuses. And the British are just +1 because they're British. Actually, they're Canadians, but UK unit. So it's +3 to +1, and we have our die rolls. And the Germans are all 4. +3 is a 7. Half to 3.5 rounds up to a 4. So the Germans have a 4. And the British roll a 6. +1 is a 7. Half to 3.5 rounds up to a 4. 4 to a 4 is a diamond. So that didn't work. So 1 that worked freed up the 1st infantry, and 1 that didn't down here. Of course, I'm not too worried about his attack back because it'll be, 1 for either the American or the British and +1 for the other guy. It'll be a +2 to a +2. So if he gets a lucky dice roll split on a +2 to +2, there's nothing I can do about it. Zoom out 1 level here and double check for supply. Oh, I was going to spend another point to move this guy north. For national tracks. So that puts me down to 24. To see if there's anybody else I need to move. So this guy's going to go the 8th. Is that the 8th Army? God. I have a terrible time seeing these numbers sometimes. Yes, that's the 8th Army, just north of Marseille here. He gets activated and goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then goes 8 into Paris. So I have somebody kind of in the middle of France to run around and try and help defend things. And then ultimately I think he's going to end up shifting up to Rotterdam, or maybe he'll go into Calais in 19th to go to Rotterdam, which will give me proper German infantry in all the ports, except for Cherbourg, and ports to the south, which are garrisoned by garrisons. The idea there is that if he wants to invade, he's going to have to fight real infantry. He's not going to fight garrisons. So he's going to have to deal with a +2 for German and -2 for attacking a port and a unit. So invasions kind of get stopped by this. I mean, he could still land somebody and land a Mulberry, but still it's not the best way of using his surprise attack markers. They're probably best used in just forcing open a hole on me. Okay, 5 here. 1 in Italy. 6. Make sure I don't have anything else to move. I really don't want to move the Hungarians or the Romanians. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I spent 12. And I'm at 24, so I spent 12, so I'm done. And that is German operations phase. I'm going to take a quick check here on my time, because I didn't start my timer like a dummy, and see how far we are. So, be back in just a moment. Bye-bye. So I'm at like 20 minutes. So we'll call this the turn. This is beginning of 1944 February. That was the German operations phase. They did manage to, their one big success, they failed to straighten the line south of Smolensk. They failed to push the Canadians out of their sort of push to get out of the Brittany Peninsula. But they did manage to alleviate a pocket around the 1st German infantry, and we'll see if they can hold that line long enough to get that infantry to be able to extricate itself and run away, which is the whole point of this, is to let them run away. So that's the German operations phase for February 1944. We will be back shortly with the Western operations phase for February of 1944, and then possibly rolling right into the Soviets and the end of turn, because I don't think there's a lot that the West is really going to do. Bombing one attack, and maybe a move to capture a city, but other than that, I don't see a whole lot of action coming forth here, so we'll see. This is Dren608. If you like my videos, please subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And we'll be back shortly with the Western operations phase. Bye-bye.